to the tailgate. I'm David Dom. Now is a great time to begin to create demand and curiosity and excitement in your products. And in a previous program, I talked about finding homes for your products and really creating demand and gaining mentor orders with your customers. And in this tailgate, I'm going to provide you some words that have really been helpful for me as I've grown market share and grown sales and really every stop along my journey. And I want to provide you those words because I think it can really be helpful. And so once again, grab that pencil, grab that notebook, be ready to pause and stop, the podcast as you need to, and then you're going to want to practice this. Because I find that when it comes from your heart and your mind, it's got to be you. It's got to be sincere, right? So I'm going to give you some of those words, and I know so often when I ask you how many days, how many hours do you spend in the fields, scouting, observing your plots and side by sides, and learning about products, and I'll get huge numbers. Well, this past year I was talking to an agronomist, and he said, well, it was about 550 hours I spent, scouting and looking at products this year. And then I asked the agronomist, well, do you think your customers know how much time you spend? And it got really quiet. And he goes, well, probably not. And I said, well, if you asked them, what number do you think they would give? Oh, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks. Think about the value you provide a farmer by you stepping into what I would call so many different fields, so many different environments, from sand to clay loam to irrigated to dry land to low pH to high yields to low yield environments. Is that valuable to a farmer? Absolutely it is. So what I want you to do is to capitalize on all your hard work, all those days that you're tired and sweaty and working hard, all those days that you maybe miss a family event because you're out taking observation notes. Let's capitalize on it. So get ready. Mr. and Mrs. Farmer, I'm going to be providing you observation notes, really from my territory that I look at. This past year, I invested approximately, 420 hours across 93 what I call different customers that I work with. I was in irrigated, dry land, high pH, low pH fields. I'm just curious, what advantages would you see in seeing my detailed notes across all the products and all those different environments? Well, it'd be huge, David. Well, I'd be curious, how would you like me to provide you those notes? Would it be in person? Would you like me to summarize it and send it to you in an email? Could we schedule a time 2 or 3 times during the year for us to sit down and review those notes? Well, that'd be great, David. That's perfect. I'll do that. Now, Mr. or Mrs. Farmer, what I'd also have planned, and I'd really like your feedback on this, is I would also like to have an invitation only. I consider you one of my very best customers. And what I'd like to do is to set up an invitation-only VIP tour where we would go and look at some of these key products that may have a fit for your farming operation. I think could really make a difference for your farm. Now, did you get all that? That's why you got to pause the program and make it yours. Have we created curiosity, interest? Have we made you just a little bit more unique than the average salesperson? Your heads should be nodding up and down. How would you like to reinforce? How would you like to reinforce products, or to get excitement about new products that are coming? Heads nodding up and down. Here's what you do. Joe, we've added XYZ product, a hybrid, to our lineup to really provide you outstanding yield potential in your most productive farms. Would you be curious to know more about that product? Would you be curious to know more about what I've seen with it? Would you be curious to know the number of side-by-sides and plots that I have it in this year? If you think about what I just did, You're telling the farmer why you've added a certain product to the lineup, where it's going to belong. You've already talked about the product and name, and now you're already beginning to set those mental hooks of where that farmer's beginning to already visualize where your product or service can be placed. You see, when we create visual pictures, it sticks. Mr. and Mrs. Farmer, share with me or describe with me a farm that looks like this, or you have these situations to deal with. Well, they'll tell you. I'd like you to remind me as we go through the next few months to share with you some very, very high demand products, some products that we're launching, some recommendations that I've seen that have worked in fields just like what you described. Oh my golly, have you caused a visual to stick? Let me give you a couple more. Joe, I have a new product that is going to be in high demand this coming fall. But before we talk about its fit for your farm, could you describe to me what you're going to be your biggest needs going into next year? Could you describe what characteristics of products you're really going to be looking at going into next year? Could you describe to me some of the challenges that you're going to want to have solved going into next year? See, before I start talking, before I start describing, before I talk about my product, I've just shared it's a high demand product, but before we talk about its fit for your farm, could you describe to me what you're going to be dealing with next year? Think about the power of what you've just have done there. Never tell a farmer something that you could have asked them, because if you tell them, they may doubt you. If they say it must be true. Let me give you some more that's really going to build what I call the growth and demand of products and services that you can provide a farmer. Think about all those times you're going to be out looking and scouting and discovering and learning that now we can use to begin to set the mental orders with farmers. I have been really impressed with these 4 products all throughout this spring. Would you be curious to know what I've seen? I have really been impressed with, put in whatever product, in regards to its root strength through some of the high wind events we had this year. Would you be curious to know what that product is? I have really been impressed with the weed control of this program that I recommended to so many growers. Would you be curious to know what I've seen? Would you be curious to know what that would look like for your farm next year? I have 3 key varieties that I feel could really match your farming operation next year. What advantages would you see in jumping in the pickup with me and seeing firsthand what I've been seeing? I have 4 high-performing products that I think may have a fit for your farm. But first, before I share those with you, can I ask you a few questions about your farm? Folks, don't wait. Don't wait till this fall. Now we've got our programs. Now we have our price list to sell. Folks, if you're waiting to this fall so I have a price list, so I know what our programs are, you're a price and program seller. And the last time I looked, those aren't really big-time reasons for a farmer to utilize your recommendation and to see how those products are going to fit on your farm. They're going to have the same doubts. You're going to increase the number of quote-unquote selling days that you have from approximately 90, those seed people, those agronomists that wait till, it's about September, now I can start selling. You only have about 90 days to sell then. Why wouldn't you want to double that? And see, when you double your selling days, you don't look at yourself as someone that's just looking at some plots and driving around. You're really finding homes for your products. That's what you need to do. This may be hard for you. You may be saying, well, David, I don't even know how these products are going to yield. I don't even know how these recommendations are going to yield. Who does know? And oh, by the way, if we wait to get the quote unquote plots out and to see how things really perform, well, that's just 1 year data. That's his performance based on this year, that environment. Tell me what next year, tell me what 2021 is going to bring. It's going to be a different year. The best way for you to be more sure about your recommendations is to get a lot of observations, ask a lot of questions, and find a lot of really good homes for your products and services and recommendations that are going to solve your customers' issues. That's what we do, and that's what I want you to do. That's what I want you to do. You got to practice. It's what we do on the tailgate. I'm David Dahm. Good seller.